Hello again, Generation 1 Transformer fans. This is Sparkster1701, and today we're going to take a look at the last of the Combaticons, their imposing leader, Onslaught. Now, Onslaught was released in 1986 with the other Combaticons, and would be available in 1987. He would be discontinued in 1988, and we really did not get a replacement for him, due to the fact the Combaticons were phased out by then. Although some could argue that Hunger and perhaps Snaptrap were his eventual replacements. An interesting thing to note here about Onslaught is that his robot mode does have a slight variation to it, depending on which of the source material you want to believe. The box art and his tech specs picture allows him to retain the cannons here attached to his backside. But strangely, as you will see in a little while, his instructions, both in the step-by-steps on transforming him, plus the picture art on the cover of the instructions, depicts him without the cannon. So we'll just remove it here so you can get a look at him like that, and I don't know, folks. I kind of like him with the cannon. It looks a little more imposing, but again, like always, this is your decision when he's in your home. We'll take a look now at some of his articulation, and Onslaught does have quite a bit for a Transformer of his size. His head does rotate all the way. It is on there somewhat loose. He has a joint here at the shoulder for his transformation, so you can rotate his shoulder all the way around. He has no elbows, unfortunately. For his legs, he does have joints here, both here at the top of his hip and what would probably be a side joint here at his thigh, so we could possibly have him do some kicks to the side. Would probably look a little bit better if his joints weren't loose from play wear. Let's take a look now at transforming Onslaught, and he is a rather simple one to transform. We start by removing all of his accessories, the gun, his chest shield, and we'll remove the cannon to get it out of the way. Alright, to start with, we'll find a little slot here on the side of his arms. Use that to retract his fists back inside. Or alternatively, you can push in on the fist to bring it back inside. Get his arms down to the sides, and then just rotate them up to cover his head. Then next, we'll merge his legs together and slide them up. Well, maybe first slide them up. Kind of varies on him depending on the play wear that he's experienced here, folks, so please do bear with me. There we go. Got it in there. Snap them together. Then we'll fold down this rear section. And then for added measure, we attach the cannon right back here near the front, and that completes Onslaught's alternate mode, a military-style flatbed truck. He is sometimes listed, as he is on the instructions, as a missile trailer, due to the fact that this is a missile launcher, supposedly. But he does not appear to have a basis in real-world military vehicles. Some sources, such as the More Than Meets the Eye guides, have also suggested that he is probably a mobile anti-aircraft weapon. As the cannon here is on a bit of a hinge, you can raise it upward and pretend that he is shooting down aerial bots. Like many of the other combiner leaders that were available at that time as well, Onslaught has another transformation to form a battle station component, and we're going to show you how to put him in that mode. For starters, we do the exact same thing by removing all of his accessories. And we fold in his hands. And this time, you take his legs, swing them out to the sides, and then slide them upwards so they rest against his arms. Like this. Now, if we could fold his arms over, we could probably get him to do some Russian dancing. Lay him down flat, and you fold down the rear sections of his trailer. Attach a ramp piece that he came with. It connects into this little slot down here. You probably can't see it too well. Get the light adjusted. This slot right here on his backside. Be gentle pressing this ramp in. This ramp is very thin, so it does break easily. And then we take the missile launcher here and just rest this open section on his head. Just slides down on there. May take a little effort. Push him back a little bit so you can get a good look at him. And there you go. There is his battle station mode, where he basically has a service ramp for another Combaticon to drive up on. Now this mode here, while it seems kind of silly by itself, it is used on the Decepticon-based Trypticon, as Onslaught can be attached to Trypticon's city mode and basically provides an extra ramp for your guys to stand on. And I do promise that I will show you that when we do Trypticon. Now right here is a look at all of Onslaught's loose pieces. He came with quite a few, as was expected with the combiner leaders. They came with all the parts for the large robot. So let's take a look at what all he comes with. Starting with, whoops, get back in there. Starting with this. This is listed as his double-barrel missile launcher. It's all in solid plastic. At least it's not painted, so you don't have to worry about paint wear, especially with this gray on his guns. The back portion here does slide a little bit on a track and can be adjusted to pivot at a slight angle. It cannot go fully straight up. So don't try to force it, folks. These little bits here on the back do prevent that. Possibly the hardest piece to find intact for Onslaught is this ramp. You can take a look here from the side. This ramp is very, very thin. So, like I was stating earlier, here's the little post that connects onto Onslaught. This area in particular is known for getting stress-worn and broken. Finding an intact original ramp for Onslaught is very difficult, as this is the second ramp that we've had for Onslaught, as the original one broke many years ago due to stress wear. What we have here is the large body shield. This is the shield that forms the chest area of Bruticus. Unlike what they showed in the cartoon, where the chest was formed from the wings of Blastoff, as you can see here, it is quite a separate unit. Now, some versions in Europe have a sticker on here that has the Decepticon insignia dead center, but in the U.S., I know of at least in the United States, there was no such sticker on this piece. We have here a small chest shield, or basically it's just labeled as chest shield, but you get the idea. This is the one that Onslaught has on him. The sticker on here can sometimes get damaged from some rough play wear, So keep an eye on it, and as you can see, it's also about as thin as the ramp, but it's a little more reinforced thanks to this extra plastic here on the backside. Right here we have the head of Bruticus. Looks kind of evil and menacing, doesn't it? Yep. Not much to say about it. Just kind of keep an eye on these antennae. They probably do get bent around a little bit. But they are thin, they are pretty thick plastic, so it shouldn't break. We have here his gun, what's described as a sonic stun gun rifle. Rather impressive looking. Turn around on the other side. Looks exactly the same. No real differences, no real major differences. And we have two fists for Bruticus. Nicely molded in gray plastic. Plus they have the R and L not only molded on the inside, which you probably can't see, but the R and L are also molded on the outside. So you'll definitely not have any confusion as to which one goes where, even if you are unable to notice that there are thumbs in here on the fists. And lastly, we have two foot stands. Nothing real major about them, but you will notice that here on the right-hand side, there is an R on this one and an L on this one to designate what foot it is supposed to be on. And if for some reason you can't find them on the front, they did take the liberty of molding them onto the backside. Talk about Department of Redundancy department here, folks. Moving right along now, we'll take a look now at Onslaught's instruction manual. As you can see here from the picture, you notice it does not have the missile launcher on the backside. And he gets a pretty long page to show off all the pieces he came with. And they show here how to turn him in quickly into the full missile trailer. Then we move down here to start robot mode. So he's pretty simple to transform, but simple kind of works for him. And then we start the battle station. Notice that says mini vehicle sold separately. And then now we flip it over to the reverse, so you can see how to finish him. And then start putting on his mini stickers. Then we get to the last section here, which shows how to use the rub sign, which as you saw is on the driver's side of the truck. At least the American driver's side of the truck. And down here you have something on the robot points, since he likely came with a little promotional offer in his box. And down here is how to read his tech specs. Then, as he was the combiner leader, he does have the instructions in color this time for how to turn your Combaticon, one way of how to turn your Combaticons into Bruticus. They're in nice large print and in color, so if you had trouble reading the small ones that came with the other Combaticons, you now had an easy way of doing it. Rather nice way of it. But as an added bonus for you folks, I do know that Onslaught was sold later in many parts of Europe. And right here I happen to have his instructions from his later release in 1990 in various parts of Europe. Now, I can't read these, so don't get me to try, but I'm guessing that this is probably an Eastern European version of Onslaught. Feel free to pause the video at any point if you want to try to read these. But this gives you an interesting alternative. This is not something that most collectors see every day, so I do hope that all of you out there appreciate the sight of something that is different. I mean, yeah, the instructions are exactly the same, but it is nice to see the occasional variation, especially if you're like me and just happen upon it somewhere. So I will take this time to remind a lot of you that I did not buy all of these off of eBay. As you can see, here's the major difference here, since it does not mention of the rub sign, nor does it have the robot points mentioned. It just goes straight to the tech specs and some legalese stuff for the trademarks down here at the bottom. And then we have, like shown earlier, the combiner instructions for building Bruticus. As I stated earlier, not all of these Transformers were bought off of eBay. I do attend a lot of toy shows, and some of these did come from toy shows, so don't neglect the toy shows, don't neglect the flea markets, folks. You might get lucky. Now, before we get to his tech specs, I'll show you another bonus. We happen to have his box. As you can see here on his box art, he does have the missile launcher. This would be the American box. We'll show you here on the top side, shows various transformation. A little step-by-step for transforming him. The stickers are a little bit different compared to what the final product came out to. Color-wise, I mean. But yeah, mine's got some play wear, but you can still see there is something of a radical difference. And you can see these instructions put the missile launcher back on. So again, my friends, it is your call how you want to display, with or without. Step back a little bit there, Onslaught, so we can have room to put the box in front of the camera. And that's one side of the box. Same thing on the other side. Down here's the bottom. Shows the same thing. Gives the listing of all of his pieces. And we go back here to the back side and see the mural from 1986, highlighting both Metroplex and Trypticon, many of the combiners and triple changers, and a few of the movie heroes, since we got Ultra Magnus and Blur hiding out over here. And over here on this side, it does show the same white box that was on all of the small Combaticons to help encourage you to get all 5 of them to build Bruticus. Down here beneath it is the barcode and his robot points. He was worth 2 points. Over here, we'll start looking at his tech specs. It's got a nice picture of him. It's the same picture as is on the front of the box. It's done up in purple to say he's a Decepticon. It lists him as a Combaticon, gives his name as Onslaught, and his function is Combaticon Leader. His motto is, "The mind is the greatest weapon." Believes the key to a mission's success lies in the perfection of its planning. Prefers devising sinister schemes to actual combat, but a relentless, furious fighter when stirred into action. As a missile trailer, Onslaught is capable of launching 6,500-mile range photon missiles, each equivalent to 3,000 tons of TNT. Accuracy of missiles is hampered by electromagnetic interference. Uses powerful sonic stun gun in robot mode. Joins with fellow Combaticons to form Robot Bruticus. And now we still have the red grid here. We'll lay the decoder over it so we can take a look at his statistics. It gives his strength as 8 as well as his intelligence. His speed is 3. His endurance is 7, as is his rank. His courage and firepower are both 8, and his skill is 9. So aside from a lack of speed, Onslaught here is a pretty capable warrior. Now, as an added bonus to you folks, before we get to my thoughts on him, I do happen to have a Mexican or Spanish release of Onslaught. Now, I mean, the color scheme that you can see for his picture is quite garish, but if you look at the inside toy here, you can see that the colors pretty well resemble the Generation 1 version, even though the box looks close to Generation 2. Look up here at the top. Design of the transformation that they showed is exactly the same. Same stuff on the side. You can also see that they call him Onslaught in Spanish-speaking territories. Slightly different version over here. Down here at the bottom, still got the same two pictures. Listing of everything that he came with. The backside shows a somewhat different mural. This does seem to feature some of the 84, 85, and 86 year characters, since we've got Sideswipe and Jazz from 1984, and Trax from 1985, as well as Astro Train. You got Blades, Vortex, Blastoff, Onslaught, Swindle, and Sandstorm. Same sort of thing over here. Man, we thought Swindle looked bad in the tan. How does he look there in bright green? And basically, you can see everything is more or less the same. Although by this time he's now using the horizontal bar graph for his tech specs instead of the grid. And down here you can see the trademark year of 1990 in España, or Spain. Interesting little add-on to the collection. And no, those instructions did not come from this toy. This one has never been let out of its box. Now we get down to, what do I think of him? Onslaught is a very interesting character. He's rather imposing in size compared to some of the other leaders and such, but he also has at least the brains and the strength and the skills to back up his leadership. The fact that he also enjoys planning battles means that he's probably a good substitute in most collectors' armies for Shockwave and some of the other strategists that the Decepticons had. He can fill in that role for any player, for any playable army. The only real downsides to him are some of the fragility of his parts, particularly that ramp, and the fact that he does, as you can clearly see on mine, he does suffer from a lot of sticker wear very easily. But all in all, Onslaught is one of the better leaders to come out for the Combiners, and he definitely deserves the respect that is garnered to him by his troops. However much that may be, he is still one of the better leaders, hands down, in terms of capability for the Combiners. As a toy, he's pretty interesting. The missile trailer's kind of flat and boring, but it does have at least some imagination to go along with it, as I'm sure many of us probably had our own imaginations, allowing the other Combaticons to hitch rides on the back of him, hopefully without him noticing. But the line on this tech spec where it says that he can be spurred into a powerful fighting machine is explained more on the More Than Meets the Eye guides by claiming that he plans every detail of his schemes and strategies down to where he wants everybody to do the things he tells them to do, and anybody that fails to do so will suffer his wrath. So those under his command or who have worked with him before know full well, follow his strategies to the letter and do what you're supposed to do, or you will likely get a good thrashing at his first opportunity. And that concludes my review of the Generation 1 Combaticon leader Onslaught. Please, viewers, make sure to leave a thumbs up here, and if you haven't, subscribe by hitting that button down there on YouTube, because that's what helps to keep this channel going. This is Sparkster1701 saying catch y'all later.